Well, after some time has passed, I finally got myself a Evercade system. So, you must be wondering, what is the Evercade system? Well, I'm glad you asked. It's a modern retro console which allows you to play two cartridges at the same time. Well, to be specifically, this is the VS, which is the home console version of what it originally came out. It originally came out as a portable system, but then they got a home console version, and now they got a new handheld version, which is supposed to be having a lot better battery and more features, such as you can play games sideways, and you can even use the portable systems to play on your TV, but I would just stick with the console if I were you. So like I mentioned, so the Evercade VS is a home console which you can play retro gaming from 8 bits to 32 bits, all in 1080p. And with this one, you can put in two cartridges at the same time, which is something that has never been done before. Aside with the accessories from like the Game Boy and such, which they don't even count. But anyways, let's talk about this thing. It was made by Blaze Entertainment, a UK company, and they officially licensed these games from other companies like Namco, Rebellion, Pico, and most recently Capcom, and now Gearbox is getting involved into it. They have Atari games in there like the 2600 games and 7800s you get, including arcade games. But not only that, but the obscure Atari Lynx, which has two collections. So each of these collections on Castlemania are $20. So you can easily get these games cheaper than rather spend to hundreds if not thousands of dollars, which can actually save you guys lots of money if you think about it. Not only you guys can play some of the older games, but you can also play some of the newer games made by indie devs. And to also keep things less confusing when it comes to consumer stuff, the red covers represent the home consoles, the blue covers represent computer gaming, and the purple covers represent the arcade games. Now, it really depends how many games there are in these collections. Sometimes it could just be 2 or 3 games or 6 games, or it could be more than that. It could be 10 or at least 20 games. Now, I want to make a quick note when it comes to getting the Evercade VS is that the only games that are not backwards, or at least just compatible in it, is the Namco games because they were specifically designed to be a handheld only, and that was the only license they were using for. Everything else should be able to work. When it comes to the Evercade, it has the built-in Wi-Fi inside the home console system, and a new one just recently added in as well. See, the original version had you hook up to the computer and download the firmware update through there, but you don't need to do that anymore, as now you can just connect to your network and download updates. There's also a Game of the Month program where they allow you to play games for free, but it's only going to be once a month. This could just be more of a sneak peek of what's to come when it comes to the upcoming collections like the Indie Heroes 3, which will be coming in next year. Now, the pricing for the home console version is $100 in American money, and there's also a premium version where it comes with 2 controllers and 2 games in the system for $130, which is not a bad price. But I will just say this if you guys are going to get the home console game. I want you guys to note this. One, you'll need a USB adapter plug-in, plug into the wall. So, yeah, it's like an AC thing, so you can't. So it doesn't come with it. And it also doesn't come with an HDMI cable, so you'll have to get your own HDMI cable if you want to hook this thing up. And turning the thing on is no problem. It takes under a second to turn it on, so it's cool. If you guys are into finding things that are hidden, then this is also for you. There are 7 in total hidden games for you guys to discover. The only way to unlock them is by typing certain codes, or you can also do a button combination. I should also mention too is that if you guys have certain collections, like Atari 1 and 2 collection, you can actually unlock an additional hidden game that's also hidden involved in these things. So Whichever game you combine, you may have a hidden game if you notice something is off with the numbers that is a little bit inaccurate. So yeah, not every combination of these cartridges are going to have hidden games, only certain ones. So that's really all I can say for that one. Now when it comes to playing some of these games, you can actually change some of their aspect ratio from 4 by 3 or just full screen or pixel perfect. There's also some filters you can play around with, like scan lines, looking like you can actually play through an older TV or whatever, or maybe an arcade machine. Like you can have a partial scan line or a full-blown scan line for your own experience. And you can even change the background of some of these games you're playing, like neon or whatever else, or just lightning. It's just more like a bolder thing, but I just turn it off. Most of the games I've actually played run pretty well, and I had no problems whatsoever when it comes to input lag or anything else, so they all mainly play perfect. I kind of just gave it a pass at first, because whenever the handheld came out, it kind of looked like one of those generic things that you would look at for kids to play. Anyway, I would just give it a hard pass because of that. I mean, you can't blame me, because there has been portable consoles where they showed generic games, and I thought this was going to be like one of those systems, but that was because I didn't do any researching. But upon researching, I've seen a whole bunch of classic games, and you guys can play up to 400 games. It might not seem a lot of collections, but if you think about it, if you add a whole bunch of collections, they're approximately gonna get like around like 500 pretty soon enough. So with that one being said, I will keep an eye out for some of these games on some of the websites of Amazon, Castlemania, Best Buy, you name it. It really depends on the country of where they're serving it from too. And it really doesn't matter if you get the US cover or the PEGI cover, you're still going to be able to play the game regardless. I should also mention real quick too, is that if you guys have the portable systems, you can actually hook it up on your console as an additional controller via the link cable, in which you can actually get it around $20. You hook it up to the controller port, and you're all set there. So, what do I think about this thing? Well, it's pretty good so far. And the reason why I got this was because of Duke Nukem. I actually heard about the announcement, and there were some Duke Nukem games I've been looking forward to playing, like Land of the Babes and Duke Nukem fans. And I couldn't get these games because they're pretty pricey. So that's the reason why I got the system in the first place. And I also wanted to see how Duke Nukem 1 and 2 are because, well, I was going to get them on Steam, but, you know, they took them off the store, so there was no way I was able to play them. Thankfully, since it's a computer game, and it's in like a, 16-bit or whatever, it's actually going to do well for me when it comes to playing. It's a remastered version, so it doesn't come out till November, so I'm waiting on that. And there was a Duke Nukem themed system for the Evercade, but guess what? It sold out rapidly, 2,000 units. Now that is what you call a system seller right there. You're gonna have Duke Nukem come to the system, and it already sells out. I think it's gonna get sold out the first time it's gonna launch. Okay, so to be fair, there's only like 2 collections of Duke Nukem, which have their own games. There's actually 6 in total when you combine the 2 collections. Not sure they're gonna have a hidden game, but fingers crossed, we'll see what happens. If you guys don't feel comfortable using these wired controllers, there are alternatives to getting different controllers. I mean, it's USB, so any controller I'm pretty sure can work. The only downside is that it lacks Bluetooth support, so you're probably going to need to use a Bluetooth adapter. If you put any controller in there, the game system will ask you, hey, how do you want this to be buttoned? And you just do whatever you want. If you guys don't feel comfortable using this retro-like controller, there's alternatives. In fact, I heard the PS Classic controller works, and I know that 8-bit dual controllers also do work as well. It's not even like the worst controller either. Like the D-pad feels like it's like a joystick, kind of like. Which is weird for me saying it, because any game I kind of like use a D-pad with, I never really feel like it uses a joystick. Like, I think you guys see what I'll talk about if you guys get the controller and test it out for yourself. They're all USB plugs, so you can just put the USB port into the thing, and that's it. They're all USB ports at the front, 4 players, you could do that. So, I should also mention too, when it comes to the games, you can sort games by release date, alphabetical order, or player count, which is something new and I never heard of, and then it pretty much helps you in case you guys don't even know what 1 player or 3 player or 4 player games are, and this really helps.
Now with the game cartridges, your save data can actually be intact in them. So meaning if you have the handheld ones, you can actually keep your save data and go back to doing what you're doing. Now before you guys start shopping as well, the original handhelds been discontinued, so the only way you can get these systems are if you get the VS system or the newly EXP system, which the XP, like I mentioned before, has Capcom games built into it. And the handheld has like more features than the original Evercade handheld, so that kind of makes it more of the superior version. But again, if you guys want to like play couch co-op up to like 4 players, you can. Controllers are around like $25, so they ain't that expensive to get. So if you ain't sure like how many players the game has, you can always sort the games by player count, which actually helps a lot too. So in future videos when it comes to Evercade, I'll make like the top games, but I'm gonna keep them categorized so people don't get confused. So whenever there's enough arcade, home console, or computer games, or plenty other stuff like that, I'll actually make a big list about them. But again, I'm going to categorize them separately so no one gets confused. So yeah. So far I have 5 collections, and now I have 3 more on the way, making it 8. I will mention this too. There are some collections that aren't being produced anymore. So if you guys go on the official site and see which things are legacy, I think that tells you something. Unless you can get it from Amazon or elsewhere for a different price. I mean, it's not as expensive as it makes it out to be. It might be around, like, still around the 20s, or it could just be $30. The places I recommend you so far are Castlemania and Amazon, but that's for US territory from what I'm saying. Funstock was where the Duke Nukem console was at, so any places you can find them, go to the Evercade website and they'll tell you where you can shop. Make sure you select your own country so you can find the best options. So yeah, I'm a fan of this system and I do plan on collecting more of these things. So yeah, I think you guys should definitely get them, and it does make retro gaming a lot easier to collect because it saves you lots of money. So that'll be it for right now. The system is good, the buttons don't have any lag issue from what I can tell, and they do their best to make sure that the system works great. They're all emulation based, so again, if you guys want to keep playing these random games, you might find some hidden gems you may not never heard about. Some of it could be because they've never been released, or just never released in North America specifically, because one of the games that were in part of the Pico Collection 3 happens to be from China. I know, it's crazy, but it was retranslated, so you guys can understand a single thing they say. But that's gonna do it. So most of the games that I've seen are mostly from NES, Super Nintendo, Genesis, PS1, and some computer games. So that'll be it for right now. Hopefully at some point they might add a 64-bit catalog, but there isn't really 64-bit games as of yet. Maybe if they make a much powerful version of the system, then maybe we might see Nintendo 64 games on there. But fingers crossed. I'm not saying it's gonna happen, but hopefully at some point it will. So that's gonna do it for right now. I'll see you guys then.